In this video, we're going to take a look at Daniel chapter 2. In Daniel chapter 1, we went over Jeremiah 23, some of the laws of God's prophets. And we're going to see if, in that video, we learned that the law of the prophets is to ask the prophet how, when, and why God spoke to him. You see right in the introduction, one night during the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. So we see the when. Daniel explains when this is taking place. And we got to kind of skip down a little bit. That night, the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. You notice how precise Daniel is in following this laws of the prophets. He explains exactly when and how God spoke to him. So Daniel is explaining that God speaks to us in a vision. God spoke to him in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. Let's go back to the introduction. And we notice he had disturbing dreams and Nebuchadnezzar couldn't sleep. This word sleep isn't repeated, but it's in the introduction, so it carries a little bit of weight. The word sleep shows the state, actually the spiritual state that Nebuchadnezzar is in. He called his magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers. That's a spiritual sleep. And he demanded, excuse me, that they tell him what he had dreamed. And as he stood before the king, he said, I had a dream that deeply troubles me, and I must know what it means. Now, we see here a couple of key words. I highlighted these. These are keywords, are the words that are same, similar, and related. Dream is related to, dream is repeated. What it means is trying to get to the meaning of it and know what it means. Okay, so we see these words are repeated throughout this entire chapter. So right in the introduction introduces the main theme of a chapter. Good rule of context to know. And I decided these magicians, astrologers, and everything, I highlighted them the same word to show they're a relationship. They're kind of a bad thing. Orange is kind of a bad thing. Disturbing's a bad thing. Trouble's a bad thing, And of course, these astrologers, magicians, and everything, rubble is not a good thing. So we basically get into the main theme of the chapter based on the introduction. The king replied, I know what you are doing. You're stalling for time, because you know I am serious when I say, if you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. But tell me the dream, and then I'll know that you can tell me what it means. Okay, when we look at this, we see the key words, no, dream, no, means repeated again. So this is the main thing. We're trying to figure out, how do you interpret dreams? Dreams are a way God uses to communicate with us. Daniel's main theme throughout his book is to explain how God communicates with us, and he's using this story. The inspired author is using this story to explain how God communicates with dreams. Obviously, Nebuchadnezzar was the one that was asleep. He's looking at the wrong people for the answer. Basically, you look at these keywords, doomed, conspired, lies, they're all related. And once you start looking at these related words, now he introduces a working word, a word that shows, okay, what are they doing for a living? Here they are, they're stalling for time. We're going to get into the time element in context, how time plays a really important role in context a little bit later here. The king's demand is impossible. No one except the gods can tell you your dream, and they do not live here among the people. Now, I've kind of noticed that, once you start highlighting these words, you start to see connections. Okay, long live the king. Hey, they're trying to impress the king. Long live the king. Now they're telling them that the gods don't live among the people. So they're saying, hey, Nebuchadnezzar, you're not a god. Neither are we. Notice how just a couple of key words repeated at the right time take us back to something that we would have missed. So it's real important to try and highlight these words and look at the little things that are repeated. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, now we're showing titles. You noticed all these titles, the king, commander of the king's guard, came to kill them. Daniel handled the situation with wisdom and discretion. See, his life is at stake, and Daniel didn't break down. He handled it with wisdom and discretion. In the first chapter, we saw that he got his wisdom and discretion from God. These astrologers and magicians and everything, they were getting it from the literature and learning from Babylon. So we still see this contrast from chapter 1 repeated in chapter 2. So we see a continuation and a drastic, really evident links between chapter 1 and chapter 2. And what we start seeing is we see demand, decree, ordered, and here I linked it to wise, great and powerful. When we start talking, wisdom and discretion, when we start talking about demands, decrees, orders, especially when it starts relating to God's commands, decrees, those are directly related to power and are directly related to wisdom and discretion, or they should be. So we start seeing, the more you start doing this, the more you start understanding these links. Then Daniel went home and told his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, what had happened. So we see this progression. We start seeing these words. They stood in front of it. Live among the people. The king's guard was sent. The guard came to Daniel and his friends. Daniel went at once to the king, requested more time from the king. And Daniel went home. Okay, once we start seeing these progressions, we see that they were standing in front of the king. They asked for more time. The king said, well, what are you trying to do, stall for more time? But here, with wisdom and discretion from God, Daniel was able to request more time from the king. And Daniel was granted that time. So we begin to see, some links, and in those links we can see contrast too. There's a contrast between Daniel's knowledge and the knowledge of those astrologers. He urged them and asked the God from heaven to show him his mercy by telling them the secret, so they would not be executed along with the wise men of Babylon. So here we see this movement, and here we see this along with. Daniel doesn't want to be associated with those people, especially in this. But here's another thing. When we start seeing 3 words or more in the same sentence or the same verse that are related, we know it's a pretty important one. And the important thing about this is they're going to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret. That's the key right in the middle of the chapter. These 3 words that relate to communication give us one of the key texts in the chapter. So look for 3 repeated similar words: urged, asked, telling. They were all related. And that'll focus you right on one of the main verses in the chapter. That night, the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. You notice right here is repeated. 2 words having to do with time. Another one sets up a sequence. And we're going to cover that a little bit later right here. But then he said, praise the Lord, the name of God forever and ever, for he has all power, wisdom and power. And here we see wisdom and power. God gives wisdom and power to the wise and knowledgeable and the scholars. So we see a number of words repeated here that have to do with wisdom and power. And here we see wisdom and strength repeated again. For you have given me wisdom and strength. You have told me what he asked of you and revealed to us what the king demanded. Revealed, typically I'm using like revealed and in a different one, but revealed is really a communication here related to told and asked in this and demanded. But you notice how God, even though we could have highlighted this a different color, thank, demanded, told, asked, this brings out, and it repeats exactly what was said in the previous verses. God is focusing in and trying to get our attention on who and how this stuff is revealed. It's only revealed from him. And this is really drawing our attention back to the law of the prophets. You know, explaining how, what, when, where, and why you received your message. Daniel replied, there is no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or fortune tellers who can reveal the king's secret. So here we go, 3 related words, main focus. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the future. Now I can tell you the dream and your visions. And so this brings the focus back that God is the only one that can reveal this stuff, and it's important for us to know. But then, once we start telling the dream, your majesty, you are the greatest of kings. The God of heaven has given you sovereignty, power, strength, and honor. You notice he gave him power, strength, and honor, but what about that wisdom? And he has made you the ruler over all the inhabitants of the world. Now this made, you can go back and look at the word made, and there were a few other words that, related to made in the working context. And sometimes we really need to get in there and study those little words. But here's one of the things I wanted to get into. Now God's going to move into, this is word now, and now we start seeing a whole bunch of words that have to do with time sequence. Now, after your kingdom comes the end of other kingdom, or after that kingdom has fallen. You notice how after, end, after, now God repeats 3 words that have to do with time. Now he opens up a whole new sequence of teaching. And we see following, while, during, then. God is setting up a sequence, and he's saying, okay, this is the order it's going to happen in. You can't change the order in the statute. You can't change the order of time. And this is one of the laws of context that you have to know to understand and be able to really see what's happening in the Bible. Is you have to see and understand God's sequence of timing. If you don't understand the sequence of timing, you're never gonna be able to understand anything in prophecy. So sequence of time is what God is trying to focus on here, and he's relating it right back to this wisdom and discretion and power and knowledge and everything. So That's it.